Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating analysis by CPA Brian that connects the dots between high-level Federal Reserve policy and the very real pain you're feeling right now at the grocery checkout. There is just a stark contrast between the official narrative and consumer reality. You know, the Federal Reserve's public stance is famously cautious. They're always waiting for data, looking at lagging indicators, taking this highly measured approach. But out in the real world, everyday people are literally watching their purchasing power vanish in real time. Part 1. The wallet versus the Fed. $12. CPA Brian uses this number as an anchor because, let's be honest, it represents pure, unadulterated sticker shock. We're talking about that visceral reaction of looking down and seeing a $12 carton of eggs on your receipt. Part 2. The wait and see trap. The source uses a really perfect term for this dynamic: economic theater. It's this situation where the Fed publicly claims to be in no rush to act. They project this calm, data-dependent confidence to keep the markets happy. But this performance actually masks a much deeper trap. CPA Brian's argument isn't that they're just patiently waiting for clarity. Actually, it's that they are completely paralyzed by their available options. It's a calculated projection designed to prevent utter market panic while they sit in a state of policy gridlock. The appearance of control has become just as important as the actual policy itself. And this brings us right to the core of the Fed's dual mandate dilemma. They are caught between a rock and a hard place. If policymakers choose option A, keeping interest rates incredibly high to fight off inflation, they risk crushing liquidity, stifling corporate growth, and triggering severe job losses. A brutal hard landing, essentially. But if they pivot to option B to save the economy, lowering rates and flooding the system with liquidity, they risk pouring gasoline on the exact same inflation they were trying to stop. Caught between triggering a recession on one hand and debasing the currency on the other, waiting for data becomes their only safe public posture. They are cornered by the math of their own monetary policy. Part 3. Second round inflation math. Now, the source makes a crucial point here. Grocery store inflation isn't some mysterious, invisible force. It is a highly traceable, strict mathematical event known as second-round inflation. Think of it as a loop. Unlike first-round inflation, where prices jump immediately because of direct supply constraints, second-round inflation is a delayed reaction. An initial shock to raw energy prices hits the industrial layers first, so farming, manufacturing, transportation. And because commercial businesses can only squeeze their margins for so long to absorb those hits, that cost inevitably rolls downhill, forcefully hitting you as higher consumer prices later on. Part 4. The 6-month diesel lag. But this transmission mechanism doesn't happen overnight. It's a severely delayed reaction. Let's trace it. On day 1, diesel hits that painful peak. Then, for the next 1 to 5 months, those elevated fuel costs silently ripple through the industrial side of the economy. Fertilizer costs spike. Freight contracts are renegotiated drastically higher. The middlemen eat those compressed margins for months. It isn't until roughly month 6 that those $12 eggs actually arrive on your grocery store shelf. The insight here is absolutely crucial. By the time the Fed gets an official CPI print reflecting high food prices in month 6, the actual economic catalyst was mathematically baked in half a year prior. Part 5. Protecting your fortress. Understanding this lag time is what allows you to see the wave coming before it hits. And guys, the stakes are monumental. We are operating in the massive shadow of a $39 trillion national debt trap. $39 trillion. When inflation runs hot and your savings continuously lose purchasing power, consumers naturally fall back on credit cards to bridge the gap, stepping right into a compounding debt cycle. CPA Brian's explicit goal here is to give you a framework to ensure you don't become a casualty within that staggering $39 trillion statistic. Navigating this environment requires a highly proactive, defensive posture. So how do you do that? The source outlines 3 really actionable wealth protection steps tailored specifically for this environment. Step 1. Trust the math, not the theater. Raw energy costs and supply chain realities are going to tell you where prices are headed months before an official press conference ever will. Step 2. Stay invested. Holding pure cash during high inflation practically guarantees a mathematical loss of your purchasing power over time. And finally, Step 3, which is really the anchor of the author's whole strategy, own assets that they cannot print. If the central bank is eventually forced into that option B we talked about, printing more money to avoid an economic crash, the logical defense is anchoring your wealth in hard, scarce assets that are fundamentally immune to being artificially diluted. We've traced the disconnect, the dual mandate trap, and the rigid math of second-round inflation. But CPA Brian leaves us with one final, deeply provocative thought to ponder today. If your grocery bill was already mathematically determined 6 months ago, what exactly is the Fed waiting to see? It definitely changes how you look at the evening financial news, doesn't it? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep looking for the real structure behind the noise, and I'll see you next time.